Hello, my name is Joseph Fournier, and this is my demonstration speech on fracking for my class Communications 101. Now, sadly, because various family members and friends were traveling within the past week to different cities out of state, I really didn't feel it was appropriate to get everyone together for an audience, even just two people, in order to cut down on the risk of exposure. So sadly, I don't have an audience with me here today. But again, hopefully that shouldn't be too much of an issue. That being said, let's get started. So, fracking. What is it? How is it done? You've heard of fracking, right? I mean, surely everyone has. It's all up in the news. Everyone talking about the various upsides and downsides to fracking. But rarely does anyone ever explain how fracking is done. Well, I'm here to change that for you. I'm going to demonstrate how fracking is done for you. Now, to put it simply, fracking is just the process of extracting some sort of valuable raw material such as shale gas or petroleum from a rock. And, well, that's very oversimplified, so let me elaborate a little bit. Fracking is the process of just drilling down into a rock that contains some sort of valuable raw material, injecting some sort of fluid or mixture at a high enough PSI to really break apart the rock and release whatever desired raw materials contained within these rocks. You then pump the desired raw material back up to the surface along with your fracking fluid or mixture. You then sort it out and you take the raw material to be processed into or refined into whatever is profitable, and then you generally dispose of the leftover fracking fluid. Now, that was a hilariously big oversimplification of things, so let me elaborate even further. Let me break it down into 3 steps. So the first step is you're going to drill. In order to frack, you have to drill. So what you're going to do is you're going to drill generally at an angle or just vertically down through the Earth's surface, generally about 1 to 2 miles or however long it takes until you reach the rock that contains the valuable raw material. You're going to drill into this rock, and then once you reach this rock, you're going to drill horizontally through the rock to kind of expand your surface area and make sure you really are efficient and just kind of produce the biggest yield of material possible. So after this is done, you generally drill about up to 1 mile or however much you need to drill horizontally. So after you do this, you then need to prepare your fracking fluid. Well, what is fracking fluid? Fracking fluid is generally just water. Well, to be more specifically, it's generally 98% water with additives such as chemicals, lubricants to make sure nothing gets caught or snagged and make sure everything goes smoothly, and proppants such as sand or really any other gritty mixture that is needed to kind of really eat away at the rock at high pressure and kind of break it apart and, well, fracture it. Hence the name fracking. That's where we get it from. Fracking, fracturing. Anyways, a little fun fact. So after you have the mixture prepared, what you're going to do is you're going to inject this fracking fluid mixture into the borehole at very, very, very high PSI or pounds per square inch. Generally, you inject this mixture at 9,000 PSI, give or take, or whatever is needed, enough to build pressure in the borehole, enough to kind of break apart and fracture and just shatter this rock, enough to release whatever desired raw material is contained within these rocks. After these rocks are fractured and shattered, they should begin releasing whatever desired raw material you want. And after they start releasing it, you start pumping this raw material back up to the surface for processing and refining, whether it's shale gas or petroleum. Now, when you pump this raw material back up to the surface, you also have to pump up the fracking mixture back up to the surface as well. And because this fracking fluid contains chemicals and other such nasty things that aren't considered environmentally friendly. You generally have to treat it by dumping it into a tailing pond and treating it with chemicals and other such things to make sure it's safe. And that's what it is. That's fracking. You have your raw material above ground and you have a leftover borehole. So that's fracking pretty much. Now, that all sounds pretty interesting, right? But maybe you weren't paying attention, so let's review. Fracking simply is just the process of drilling down into a rock that contains raw material that you want. You then inject a fluid with sand and other things into this borehole and into the rock at such high pressures that you break apart the rock and release whatever raw material that you want is contained within. You then pump out the raw material as well as the fracking fluid mixture. You sort it, you refine the raw material, and you treat the toxic fracking fluid material. And now, that really just is how fracking is done. Now, maybe I'm not that good at public speaking, or maybe you have a bad memory. So, lucky for you, I have a mnemonic phrase for you in order to remember the steps and how you frack. And that's just simply dig, or dig. So if you ever forget how fracking is done, just remember dig, or dig. And that stands for drill, inject fluid, and gather desired materials. And that's how you remember how fracking is done. Now, I hope you all enjoyed this demonstration speech of mine. Thank you and have a great day.